Man, if you didn't know that cold pizza is the best breakfast food, I'm not sure you're even ready for college. But in case you did, let's get this video started. I'm gonna put the pizza away. How's it going, guys? I'm Josh, and if you saw my 9 ways to prepare for college video, or you follow me on Instagram, you probably know that I wanted to do a college Q&A video. And if you didn't know that, you should probably go do those 2 things. Anyway, you guys came through with some seriously awesome questions, so hopefully I can follow up with some seriously decent answers. In collaboration with AMD, I present to you my college Q&A. We're gonna start with all the questions you left in the comments of my preparing for college video. And we're gonna start with a really excellent question. Dr. Board 2047 asks, how did you decide what college to go to, or if college was even necessary for your career goals? The first thing you want to do is decide whether or not college is right for you. And I chose to go to college because I knew that, first of all, I like school. I wanted to study marketing. I wanted to maybe start my own business one day, and having a business degree would definitely help. And that even if I didn't start my own business, a lot of jobs you have to have a degree to get, and it opened up a lot of doors just having a degree. So that was my decision for going to college. After you decide you want to go to college, I recommend going to this website called bigfuture.collegeboard.org, and I'll put a link to that down below, where you fill in all of your constraints for the perfect school, whether you want it to be in the city or suburbs, whether it's a big school or a small school, if you want a Greek life, what your SAT scores are, what your grades are like, and it churns out all the schools that would fit you nicely. After I did this, I got about 30 or so schools that fit most of my basic requirements. I then went through those schools and narrowed it down to 15. And after I did that, I went through those 15, did a little more research, and eventually got it down to 8 schools, and I applied to all of them. And I believe those schools were Boston University, Northeastern, NYU, UVA, Pitt, and that's all I can remember right now. I was fortunate enough to get into all the schools I applied to, and people always ask me what my grades were like, what my SAT scores were that got me into NYU, and I'm not going to tell you that. And the reason why is because my details are statistically insignificant. What you should do is look up the schools you want to go to and the average GPA, the average SAT scores they have, so you know whether you have a decent shot of getting in, not just comparing yourself to one person that managed to get in. That was an intense question. I need something a little more mellow now. Ezekiel Burgess asks, if you miss class too much, do you get in trouble? It's really important to look at the syllabus for all your classes. I've had one professor who would fail you if you miss 3 days of classes without being gravely ill or having a family emergency. I've also had a lot of classes where they don't take attendance, so if you miss a couple days, it's not a big deal. Tom Kogo asks, what is your typical breakfast on a school day? I'd say I like to wake up really early and have lots of free time before my first class. So I'll typically make like a good breakfast sandwich with avocado, tomato, and egg, and cheese, or breakfast burritos, cereal if I'm feeling lazy, or pancakes if I'm feeling extravagant. Leisha P asks, can you talk about the way you've matured through college? You can cook and you travel a lot. Okay, that's a very introspective question. One of the biggest differences between college and high school is in college, I'm surrounded by so many ambitious, brilliant people, and in high school there were those kids, but just not as many of them. So now I've definitely matured socially, I've matured intellectually with all my classes, and my friends have pushed me to read more books, read better books, and I also started journaling because a lot of my friends journaled and they encouraged me to do that, and it's been amazing. A Random Shot asks, is skating to and from class on a cruiser board a good idea or not? I personally skate to class every day because it's so much faster and really, really fun, but you know, just give it a shot and figure out if it's for you. Caitlin Jones says, talk about college relationships in your next college Q&A. Please, Josh, I know you're secretly a love guru. Okay, I should preface this by saying I have no idea what I'm doing when it comes to dating. That being said, my suggestions on dating are, I love taking girls out to dinner dates because I feel like you don't know someone until you've had like a one-on-one long conversation with them, and dinner is perfect for that. Good places to meet girls, small classes where everyone gets to talk with one another because sometimes it's hard to talk to people in big lectures. Parties are always great, and Tinder. I've been having a blast on Tinder lately. 619 CA Gonzalez asks, what's a good way to start talking to people in your lectures or classes? What I like to do is sit in a different spot every day in different parts of the room just so I can meet new people, and it's always best to talk to people before or after class starts and ends, because once the lecture is started, don't be that obnoxious kid that talks in class. Noah Kim says, I'm going to NYU next year. I might see you. Unlikely but possible. Not a question, but I am speaking at a Welcome Week panel this year, so if you want to check that out, I'll put information somewhere here. Now for some phone questions. Waller Lindsay asks, when applying for college, what did you find was the most important part to focus on in your application? On the Common App and all college applications, a lot of the stuff is just objective information that you can't really play around with, but tweak all the stuff that's subjective. So all of your accomplishments, make sure you play up. Like, I was vice president of the gardening club, and I went to maybe 1 meeting, but I was elected on the first meeting, and I definitely made that seem like a real leadership role. Also, make sure your essay is fantastic because that's a big differentiator. Kishka Bob asks, studying tips. Everyone has a different way of studying, and some people love flashcards. For me, they don't do that much. I like to just do tons and tons of practice problems. Also, make an incentive system to make you work harder. So I'll say like, okay, after I do 20 pages of reading or 15 practice problems, I get get to eat this piece of chocolate, and I'll keep doing that so I get to eat more chocolate and work harder and harder. Matt KP asks, what's up with the new laptop and how do you pick the right one for college? Two things I like about it are the price point and the touchscreen. Last night I was really exhausted from all this work and I just wanted to draw something, so I tried drawing on it with my fingers and I made this. To choose the right laptop in college, you need to think about what kind of work you'll be doing on it and what meets your budget. If all you're going to be doing is writing papers and browsing memes, then you're pretty flexible. Whereas if you're going to be running some serious software like for editing movies, you might want like a big 1 terabyte hard drive. Also, think about your major and all the applications you'll be using in it. For example, a lot of kids studying finance insist that you need a PC because Excel works best on it and all the shortcuts are best on a PC. Hannah Fisher 40 asks, is it better to stay in a dorm or rent an apartment? If you have the choice, I'd say start off in the dorms and eventually move off campus. And the reason why is because this is one of the only times in your life, until you're living in a retirement home, that you get to live with all these people that are your age, and it's a really awesome experience because it just leads to a lot of socializing and a lot of camaraderie that you wouldn't have otherwise. Joe Cool 2.0 asks, have you ever made the Dean's List? I'm pretty sure I've made it every semester. Greg Thane 64 asks, did college change your YouTube life and schedule? The thing with college is your classes change every semester, and so does your schedule. My very first semester at college was so busy with class that I barely had any time to make YouTube videos, and I was skating like once or twice a week. My last semester at college, I had so much free time and so little work that I could skate as much as I wanted and make so many videos, and it was incredible. I'd say just prepare yourself for a lot of flux because you don't know how much work you're gonna have until you've actually started your classes. The Cubing Penguin asks, how do AP classes stack up to a college course? It's all over the place. I've had some classes that are super easy and make AP classes seem hard, and vice versa. Overall, I'd say college courses tend to have a little more homework, but that could just be me. Attaboy Ozzy says, I'm 2 years into studying for sociology, but I want to switch majors, and those 2 years will pretty much have gone to waste. Any advice? I'm going to answer this question with an economic term. Define sunk cost.
Here's what I found on the web.
A sunk cost is a cost that has already been incurred and cannot be recovered. Basically, you have to think about what's best for you in the future and not let it be dictated by the past. Just because you've done 2 years of something you don't like doesn't mean you should continue to do it because you've already gone this far. I'd say now would be the best time to switch if you really think it's right for you. Haley Isaac asks, how do you deal with roommates? I feel like I would have had a hard time living with people in a small room. The biggest tip I can give you for living with roommates is communication. If you have an issue with your roommate, let it be known right away rather than not saying anything and letting it build up and getting really mad about it when they don't even know that they're doing anything wrong. I've seen this happen so many times. Just be clear with your roommate and don't be afraid to call them out on something. All right, final question. Dude79 asks, do you hate teachers that like some students and dislike others? I think he's asking how I feel about teachers who play favorites, and the thing is, it doesn't matter how I feel. It's something you have to accept because all teachers play favorites and all people really play favorites, and that's something you can actually take advantage of. A few tips to make sure your teacher likes you, and this is a really important thing because a lot of grades are super subjective, and if your grade's teetering between a B+ and an A-, if they like you, you know it's going to be an A-. So first of all, make sure your teacher knows you by name, and the best way to do this is by asking questions in class, and it's also nice to introduce yourself. Go up and shake their hand after one of the classes, and maybe ask a question that you didn't ask during class, and they will definitely appreciate that. Also, there are these things called office hours, which is when teachers open up their office for students to come in and talk to them. I highly recommend going to at least one office hours for each of your professors and just going and asking a homework question or some sort of question about the class, because not only are they going to really help you, but that also makes you much more memorable and shows you're dedicated to their class, that you actually care. All right, and that's it. 4 things I want to say before we wrap up this video. 1, if I didn't answer your question, leave it in the comments down below, and either I'll answer it or some other kid in college will hopefully chime in. And 2, huge thanks to AMD again for sponsoring this video and giving me a free HP Envy X360 powered by their 7th generation processor. For more info on their processor, there's going to be a link down below. 3, I have a whole playlist full of college videos, so if you want to see more stuff, I've got day in the life, Q&As, semester reviews, etc. Link to that right over here. And 4, for a chance to have your question in my next Q&A video, and just to stay up to date on my life shenanigans and new videos, be sure to follow me on Instagram and Snapchat. Links to all that stuff down below. I'm so close to 100K on Instagram. Let's make that happen. And that is all I have to say. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you eventually. Now to finish that pizza.